There are certain mornings when the world feels slower, when you sit at the edge of your bed, roll your ankles in gentle circles, and listen to the sounds of your own body. Maybe you sense a little tightness in your calf, a strange twinge in your foot, or a heaviness that lingers long after you rise. For many of us over 60, these moments are quiet reminders that our bodies speak a different language as the years go by, sometimes with whispers, sometimes with gentle warnings. If you've ever paused, rubbing a muscle that just won't relax, or found yourself wincing from a sudden cramp while reaching for something on a high shelf, you know how surprising and frustrating these signals can be. They sneak up during the most ordinary routines: gardening, reaching for a glass of water, climbing the steps to your porch, or even in the middle of a good night's sleep. And while a cramp can be as quick as a flicker, its echo-tight muscles, soreness, a trace of worry can linger in your day. That's why today, I want us to have a heartfelt, honest conversation about cramps. Not the kind that come and go without notice, but those early signs, those small, often overlooked signals that deserve our attention and care. Because, my dear friends, our bodies rarely shout. Instead, they prefer gentle hints, a flutter, a tingling, a soft tightening before the real discomfort begins. Why is this so important for those of us in our golden years? Simply put, what begins as a small, harmless twitch can sometimes signal a deeper need for care, a shift in our habits, or even a warning to check in with our health. When you pay attention early, you give yourself the gift of peace, comfort, and confidence to enjoy everyday gardening, walking, sharing meals, and laughing with family without the shadow of worry. I know, talking about cramps might not sound as cheerful as reminiscing about old songs or favorite recipes, but there's something beautiful about honoring the wisdom in our muscles. I want this video to be a gentle guide, a reminder that even the smallest signs are worthy of your care. And if you find yourself nodding along, recognizing a moment or memory in these words, I hope you'll share a comment below with the number 1. It's a simple way to let me know you're here, listening and walking this path with me. Let's begin our journey by tuning into the very first sign, that faint, restless twitch in your legs or feet. Sometimes it's a quick flutter, like a fish darting just beneath the surface of a pond. You might notice it as you're sitting in your favorite chair, reading the morning paper or listening to the radio. Your foot, out of nowhere, begins to tremble just slightly, barely noticeable at first. I remember my own mother, long after she'd retired, tapping her foot absently during long afternoons. She used to laugh it off, saying her body was dancing to a tune only she could hear. But as the weeks went by, those tiny movements grew stronger, first in the arch of her foot, then curling up into her calf, until one evening she found herself jolted awake by a sharp cramp. It's in those little moments, the ones we often brush aside as nothing, that our body begins its gentle conversation. If you notice that your foot or leg twitches more often, especially at rest, take a moment to pause. Is it a sign you need more water, a bit more stretching, or a new pair of shoes with better support? Sometimes it's simply the body's way of whispering, please take care of me. Another sign that often sneaks up quietly is an odd tingling or pins and needles feeling in your toes or lower legs. It's not the same as when your leg falls asleep after sitting too long. Instead, it's a subtle sensation that comes and goes, sometimes with a hint of numbness. This feeling may be mild, but it's worth paying attention to, especially if it becomes more frequent or spreads up your leg. My neighbor, Mr. Lin, used to describe it as little sparkles under my skin. For him, these tingles came in the early morning, just as he was getting out of bed. At first, he ignored them, thinking they were just another sign of age. But over time, the tingling turned into mild cramps, especially after gardening or long walks. It was only after he began keeping track and gently massaging his feet each evening that he noticed the pattern and found relief. If you ever feel that odd, buzzing sensation in your legs or feet, don't rush to dismiss it. Instead, see it as a gentle invitation to slow down, stretch, and care for those hard-working muscles. And if you're comfortable, try noting when it happens what you were doing, how you were sitting or standing, and whether you felt thirsty or tired. I know these signs can sound small, maybe even a little silly at first, but believe me, every muscle has a story, and every gentle warning is a chance to care for yourself more deeply. Before we move forward, I want to pause and ask, have you noticed any little twitches, tingles, or restless feelings in your own body lately? What were you doing, and how did you feel? I'd be so grateful if you'd share in the comments, so we can all learn from each other's experiences. Sometimes, the best advice comes not from books or doctors, but from neighbors and friends who have walked the same path. So let's keep listening together, honoring each sign as it comes, not with worry, but with the warmth of understanding. Our bodies may change with time, but their wisdom only grows deeper. And in each twitch, tingle, and flutter, there's an opportunity for kindness, care, and gentle strength. As we continue this journey, remember, paying attention to the smallest signs is one of the most loving things you can do for yourself. Your body is always speaking, sometimes softly, sometimes with a little nudge. And you, my friend, are wise enough to hear it. There's a quiet magic in the way our bodies speak to us as we age. If we listen carefully, we can notice signs that might otherwise slip past unnoticed. A gentle warning, a soft suggestion to care for ourselves a little better. Today, as we continue this journey together, let's gently shine a light on 2 more early signs of cramps that you should never ignore. You might have noticed, especially during cooler mornings or after a long walk, a feeling of stiffness that settles into your legs or hands. Not just ordinary stiffness from a good night's sleep, but a stubborn tension that lingers long after you've started moving. You stretch, flex your feet, and perhaps even roll your shoulders, but the sensation clings on, making every step feel like wading through water. I remember watching my uncle in his garden, his hands buried deep in the soft earth, tending to his tomatoes and beans. One day, I noticed he moved slower than usual, pausing to rub his calves every few minutes. "They just feel tight," he said, trying to laugh it off. But as the days passed, the stiffness became a regular companion, greeting him each morning and sometimes returning in the evenings. It was only when he began adding more gentle stretches to his daily routine, slow circles with his ankles before bed, careful toe touches in the morning, that the tension began to ease. For many of us, this lingering stiffness is more than just a passing annoyance. It's your body's way of hinting that your muscles need a little extra love, maybe more water, a bit of warming food, or time to rest between activities. Ignoring it may lead to more frequent or severe cramps down the road. So, if you find yourself struggling with tension that just won't melt away, pause and consider, is there a way to bring more gentleness to your daily routine? A 5-minute stretch, a warm compress, or a quiet moment with your feet up can make all the difference. Another sign that often goes unnoticed is the early arrival of fatigue in your legs or arms, even when you haven't done much. Imagine going about your day making tea, folding laundry, tending your plants, and suddenly feeling as if your limbs have grown heavy, weighed down by something you cannot see. This tiredness is not the same as sleepiness. It's a quiet sense that your muscles are working harder than they should, even during the smallest tasks. I recall a neighbor, Mrs. Evans, who prided herself on never missing her morning walk around the block. But as spring turned to summer, she began cutting her walks short, complaining that her legs simply didn't want to cooperate. "They feel like they're dragging," she admitted, frustration in her voice. It took time and a little encouragement from friends before she realized that this early fatigue was her body's signal to slow down and adjust her habits. More hydration, gentler movement, and Even a change in footwear helped her regain her old energy. If you feel your muscles tiring easily, even after a good night's sleep, don't dismiss it. Instead, take it as a gentle reminder that your body needs time to recover, perhaps more than it used to. Try giving yourself moments of rest throughout the day, especially after activities that leave you feeling drained. A quiet break in a sunny spot, a cool glass of water, or even a few slow, deep breaths can help restore your strength. Now, I invite you to pause and reflect. Have you ever noticed a stiffness or tiredness in your muscles that seems unusual? What do you do to bring relief and comfort to yourself? If you feel comfortable, share your tips or experiences in the comments below. Sometimes, a simple idea from a friend can spark a new habit or bring comfort to someone else in our community. As we move gently forward on this path, remember that noticing and honoring these early signs is a way of showing love to yourself. The body's quiet language, its stiffness, its weariness, its gentle aches, is a wise teacher if we choose to listen. Let's continue our journey, together, with patience and understanding, knowing that every small act of care you offer yourself brings you closer to strength, peace, and gentle health. There are moments in life that catch us off guard, not because they're dramatic, but because they slip quietly into the background, becoming part of the everyday rhythm. For many of us, another early sign of cramps is a gentle, almost forgettable ache that comes and goes, often in the same place. Perhaps you feel it as a dull soreness in your calf, thigh, or the arch of your foot. Not quite pain, not just fatigue, but a whisper that lingers after you've walked, stood in the kitchen, or finished a favorite hobby. I remember my neighbor's story, a kind woman named June, who loved to knit by the window every afternoon. She would tell me about a persistent ache in her foot that showed up each day just before sunset. At first, she blamed it on the way she sat or the shoes she wore. Only after the ache turned into a sharper cramp one evening did she pause and pay attention. June found that simply shifting her position, flexing her foot now and then, and even elevating her legs during her knitting sessions helped the dis. It's in these subtle aches, those that never quite disappear, or that arrive right on schedule each afternoon or evening, that your muscles are whispering for help. If you notice a recurring discomfort in the same spot, try changing your routine just a little. Stretch that muscle gently, use a warm cloth, or rest it after activity. Most importantly, listen with patience. Your body knows more than you might think. There's another sign, one that often surprises people, the sudden, involuntary tightening of a muscle when you least expect it. You might be reaching for a book on the shelf, or just standing up from your favorite chair, when a muscle in your hand, arm, or foot seizes up for a few seconds. It's not quite a full cramp, yet more like a quick, strong spasm, a little shock that makes you freeze for a moment. Many people try to ignore it, brushing it off as clumsiness or just getting older. But these quick spas. A dear friend of mine, Robert, shared his own story with me. He had always enjoyed fixing small things around his house, but recently he found his hands clenching tightly without warning when he was using his screwdriver or picking up his mug. At first, he would just shake it off, but the spasms kept returning, sometimes in his foot or calf while walking down the garden path. With some encouragement, Robert began paying more attention to his posture, drinking more water, and giving his hands and feet gentle M. If you find yourself freezing in place, a muscle tensing unexpectedly, or your hands curling up without warning, consider it a gentle nudge from your body. Maybe you need more rest, a slower pace, or just a kind moment to stretch and breathe. These signs, though small, are opportunities to prevent more painful cramps in the future. As you go through your daily routines, from folding laundry to gardening or even reading by the window, keep an ear out for these whispers and nudges. Your body is not trying to frustrate you. It's asking for care in the gentlest way it knows how. Now, Let me ask you, do you have a story of a recurring ache or a sudden muscle spasm that taught you something new about your own well-being? If you feel comfortable, share it below. Sometimes, the wisdom in our stories helps others find comfort and understanding too. Let's keep moving forward together, step by step, story by story, always listening to the quiet guidance our bodies offer every day. As we find ourselves approaching the close of this gentle journey, I want to pause and remind you of something precious. Listening to your body is not just about avoiding pain, but about building a life filled with ease, comfort, and self-respect. Sometimes, the earliest signs of cramps are so soft that we're tempted to ignore them. Yet, with a little patience, these quiet warnings can become the foundation of a life that feels lighter, steadier, and more joyful. There's one more sign I'd like to share, perhaps the most subtle of all. Sometimes it's not a twinge or a spasm, but a feeling that you're not quite as steady on your feet as you used to be. Maybe you notice it when getting up at night, or when reaching for something on a high shelf. Your legs might wobble, your confidence might flicker for just a moment, and you wonder, is this how it begins? It's a question many of us ask, often in the privacy of our own thoughts. Let me tell you a story from my own life. My father, a proud and independent man, was never one to complain. But as he aged, I saw him reach for the wall more often, take shorter steps, and steady himself before rising from his favorite chair. At first, he brushed it off as nothing. Just getting older, he would say. But deep down, those small changes were his body's way of asking for attention. With gentle encouragement, he started practicing balancing exercises, drinking more water, and stretching his The lesson here is clear. Stability and strength begin with noticing. Each quiet sign, a wobble, an ache, a sudden fatigue, is a small invitation to pause, listen, and honor the wisdom within. The journey to strong, comfortable muscles is not a sprint, but a slow, beautiful walk made lighter by every small act of care. Before we part ways, I want to leave you with this encouragement. Your story matters. The challenges you face, the gentle ways you care for yourself, and even the days when you stumble, all of it adds up to a life worth celebrating. If you have learned something or found comfort in these words, I invite you to share your thoughts, memories, or favorite self-care routines in the comments below. You never know who you might inspire with a simple sentence or a kind reminder. If this video has helped you feel seen or has offered a moment of peace, you are always welcome here. Please consider liking, subscribing, or simply sharing this with a friend who could use a gentle nudge toward self-care. More than anything, I hope you keep listening to your body, honoring its whispers, and moving forward one gentle step at a time. As you move into the rest of your day, take a moment to thank your body for all it does, even when it speaks in riddles and whispers. You are stronger and wiser than you realize. Until next time, be well, stay curious, and may every step you take be filled with lightness and care.